"Take my children," she sobbed, until the rancher said, "You're all coming with me." The night was cold and quiet, the kind of quiet that made every small sound feel louder than it should. A narrow country road stretched in both directions, empty and dark, with only fields and distant trees on either side. The moon was hidden behind thick clouds, and there were no streetlights. It felt like the world had stopped breathing. Beside an old, tired car stood a woman named Clara. Her hands were shaking, not just from the cold, but from fear and exhaustion. The car had died hours ago, right in the middle of nowhere. She had tried turning the key again and again, hoping for a miracle, but the engine stayed silent. The fuel gauge sat at empty, like it was mocking her. She leaned against the car, feeling the weight of everything she had been holding inside for months, finally pushing her down. Two small children stood close to her. Her son, Liam, was 6 years old, thin and quiet, with eyes that watched everything. Her daughter, Emma, was 4, holding tightly to Clara's coat with both hands. Their clothes were clean but worn, and their shoes were not made for cold nights. Emma's nose was red, and Liam tried to act brave, even though his hands were numb. Clara had not planned to be on this road. She had not planned much at all lately. Life had been happening too fast, knocking her down before she could stand up again. A few months earlier, she had still believed things would work out. She had a small apartment, a job at a local store, and just enough money to get by. It was not an easy life, but it was a life she could manage. Then the store closed without warning. The owner sold it, and everyone was let go. Clara searched for work every day, walking miles with Emma in a stroller and Liam holding her hand. She filled out forms, made calls, and waited. The waiting was the hardest part. Bills did not wait. Rent did not wait. Soon, the apartment was gone too. She tried staying with friends, but friends had problems of their own. She stayed quiet about how bad things were, smiling when she could, saying thank you too many times. She never wanted to be a burden. When there was nowhere else to go, she packed what little they had into the car and started driving, hoping to reach a town where someone might help. Now, that hope felt very far away. Emma began to cry softly. Not loud, just small sounds that cut straight through Clara's heart. Clara picked her up, even though her arms ached, and held her close. Liam stood nearby, rubbing his hands together. "Mom, are we going to be okay?" he asked. He tried to sound calm, but his voice shook. Clara swallowed hard. She had promised herself she would never lie to her children, but she also could not let them see how scared she was. She knelt down so she was at their level and forced a small smile. "Yes," she said quietly, "we are. We just have to wait a little." She did not know who they were waiting for. Time passed slowly. The cold crept deeper into their bones. Clara wrapped her coat around the children as best she could, even though it left her shoulders bare. She thought about the choices that had brought her here, wondering if she had missed some sign, some better path. Guilt pressed on her chest, heavy and painful. A mother was supposed to protect her children, and right now she felt like she had failed at the most basic thing. She looked down the road again and again, hoping to see headlights. Each time the road stayed empty, her heart sank a little more. The silence felt endless. As the hours dragged on, Clara's thoughts grew darker. She wondered how long they could stand the cold. She wondered what would happen if no one came. She wondered if asking for help had become something she was no longer allowed to do. Her eyes filled with tears, but she wiped them away quickly. She could not fall apart. Not here. Not in front of her children. Then, far in the distance, a small light appeared. At first, Clara thought her eyes were playing tricks on her. She blinked and looked again. The light grew brighter, moving slowly, closer. Headlights. A vehicle was coming. Her heart began to race. Hope rushed in so fast it almost hurt. She stepped closer to the road, waving one hand gently, not wanting to scare whoever was driving. Liam noticed too and stood up straighter. Emma stopped crying and looked toward the light. The vehicle slowed as it approached. It was a large pickup truck, old but well kept, with mud on the tires and scratches along the sides. It came to a stop a short distance away. For a moment, nothing happened. Clara's hope wavered, replaced by fear. She hugged her children closer. Then, the driver's door opened. A man stepped out, tall and broad-shouldered, wearing a heavy jacket and a worn hat. His movements were calm, unhurried. He looked like someone used to long days and hard work. He did not rush toward them. He stood by his truck, taking in the scene with careful eyes. "Evening," he said, his voice steady and low. "Everything all right here?" That simple question broke something inside Clara. She tried to answer, but the words tangled in her throat. She opened her mouth, closed it, and then suddenly, all the strength she had been holding on to disappeared. Her knees felt weak. She clutched Emma tighter and began to cry. Not quietly this time, but with deep, shaking sobs she could not control. "I'm sorry," she said between breaths. "I'm so sorry." The man's expression softened immediately. He took a few slow steps closer, keeping his hands visible, his posture open. "Hey," he said gently, "it's all right. Take your time." Clara tried to speak again. She looked down at her children, then back at the man. Her voice came out broken and raw. "I don't know what to do anymore," she said. "The car? We're stuck. They're cold and hungry, and Her voice cracked. "I just want them to be okay." She sank down onto the edge of the road, her strength gone. The children clung to her, confused and scared. The man crouched a short distance away so he was not towering over them. He looked at the children first, really looked at them, then back at Clara. "My name's Henry," he said. "I've got a ranch about 20 minutes from here." Clara barely heard him. The fear and exhaustion poured out of her in a rush she could not stop. "I can't do this anymore," she whispered. "I can't keep failing them." She looked up at Henry, her eyes full of pain. "Please, if you can help them, take my children. Just don't leave them here." The words shocked even her as she said them, but they came from a place of pure desperation. She did not mean she wanted to lose them. She meant she wanted them safe, even if it cost her everything. Henry did not answer right away. He stayed quiet, listening, letting the moment settle. The wind moved through the fields, and the truck's engine ticked softly as it cooled. Clara waited, her heart pounding, afraid of what his response might be. This was the moment where everything could change, or fall apart completely. Henry stayed crouched on the side of the road, his eyes steady on Clara and her children. He could see the exhaustion etched into her face, the way her shoulders slumped, the way her hands shook, the way her voice had broken when she begged for help. He could also see the trust that had quietly begun to form in the children's eyes, a tiny spark that hoped this stranger might actually be different. He slowly stood up, brushing dirt from his jacket. His hands were strong and weathered, the kind of hands that had worked with soil, wood, and animals for decades. Henry had spent most of his life on his ranch, far from the crowded towns and noisy streets. He was used to long days, hard work, and people in need. But he had learned long ago that help could only be given with care, not rushed. "Clara," he said, his voice firm but calm, "I'm not going to take your children away from you. You stay with them. You're their mother. But I'm going to help all of you. You're coming with me." Clara blinked, her mind racing. She hadn't expected that. All her panic, all her fear, had been building toward the idea that she might have to make the hardest choice of her life, asking someone else to take her children. And yet here was this man saying something she had barely dared to hope for. I can't ask for that," she stammered, shaking her head. "You don't know us. I don't even know you. What if you change your mind?" Henry shook his head slowly. "I don't change my mind on something like this." "You're not a stranger, not to me. You're just people who need a hand right now. And I can give you that. We'll all stay together. You, me, and your children. You don't have to do this alone." The wind blew cold across the open road, rustling the dry grass. Clara hugged her children tightly. Emma's small body trembled in her arms, and Liam looked up at Henry with a mixture of hope and doubt. The boy's eyes seemed to ask the question that Clara herself could not put into words. Can we really trust him? Henry crouched down again, slowly this time, keeping his voice soft and patient. "I know it's hard. I know it's scary. But you don't have to be scared anymore. I have a warm house, food, and a bed for each of you. You'll be safe there. You can rest. You can think. You can just be together without worrying about tonight." Clara felt tears well up again, but they were different now. These weren't just tears of fear or despair. These were tears of relief, of hope, and of disbelief. She looked at Henry, searching his face for any sign of deceit or hesitation, but found none. "How far is this place?" she asked quietly. Her voice was small, almost afraid that if she spoke too loud, the words would vanish. "About 20 minutes from here," Henry replied. "It's not far. I'll drive. You just get in the truck with the kids." Clara hesitated for a moment, glancing at her children. Liam took a tiny step forward, then Emma, still holding on to her mother's coat, looked up at her. Clara realized that they were already trusting Henry, just by the way they were looking at him. She swallowed her fear and nodded. "Okay," she said softly. "Okay, let's go." Henry offered a hand, helping her and then her children into the truck. The children were still quiet, unsure of this sudden change in their lives, but the warmth of the truck's cabin began to soothe them. Clara wrapped an arm around Emma and held Liam's hand as Henry started the engine. The headlights cut through the darkness, illuminating the empty road ahead. As they drove, Clara kept glancing at Henry. She noticed the way he drove slowly and carefully, always checking the mirrors and keeping an eye on the road. He didn't talk much, but there was a calmness about him that made the silence feel safe, not empty. Finally, after a few minutes, Clara spoke. I don't even know how to thank you." Henry smiled faintly, his eyes still on the road. You don't have to. Just take care of your kids. That's thanks enough. Right now, that's all that matters. Clara nodded, looking down at Emma, who had finally stopped shivering and was leaning against her. Liam was still quiet but no longer tense, his small hands resting in his mother's lap. The children's presence gave Clara strength. She had feared losing control, feared that the weight of their situation would crush her, but seeing them safe, even for these first few moments, gave her hope she hadn't felt in weeks. The drive was mostly quiet. Henry occasionally glanced at Clara and the children in the rearview mirror, as if checking that they were still okay. The truck bounced slightly over the uneven country road, and Clara thought about how long it had been since she had felt any sense of stability. Everything in her life had felt like it was falling apart, like one misfortune after another kept coming at her. And now, for the first time in weeks, she felt a flicker of relief. "You're going to like it at the ranch," Henry said suddenly, breaking the quiet. "It's not a big mansion, but it's warm, and the kids can run around, and there's plenty to eat. You can rest tonight, really rest. No one will bother you." Clara swallowed hard. She wanted to believe him, wanted to trust him, but fear still lingered like a shadow in the back of her mind. I just hope it's safe," she said. "I've been through a lot. I need to know they'll be okay." Henry's voice was steady and reassuring. "They'll be more than okay. You're not alone anymore. Not tonight. Not ever." As they drove deeper into the countryside, the open fields gave way to rolling hills and clusters of trees. The moon occasionally peeked through the clouds, casting pale light on the land. Clara looked out the window, trying to absorb the scenery, trying to believe that this night could really be different. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, they reached a long driveway that led to a modest ranch house. Smoke rose gently from the chimney, and soft light spilled from the windows into the darkness. The house looked simple but sturdy. It was surrounded by fields, a few barns, and a pen of animals that made quiet noises in the night. Henry parked the truck and helped Clara and the children out. The warmth from the house reached them immediately, contrasting sharply with the cold outside. Emma clung to her mother, but even she looked around in awe at the new surroundings. Liam's eyes were wide, taking in everything quietly. Henry led them to the front door. "Come on inside," he said. "You'll get something to eat first, then a warm bed for all of you." Inside, the house was cozy and welcoming. Wooden floors creaked underfoot, and the scent of baked bread and roasted meat filled the air. A fire crackled in the living room, and blankets were neatly stacked on a couch. Clara felt her shoulders loosen for the first time that night. She could feel the tension in her body melting away just a little. The children wandered close to the fire, Emma sitting on a rug near it and Liam quietly observing the room. Clara sat down in a chair, still holding Emma in her lap, and allowed herself to finally breathe. For the first time in weeks, she felt a sense of safety. Henry brought over a plate of food for them. Clara's hand shook as she picked up the fork, but the warmth from the fire and the food began to calm her nerves. She looked up at Henry. I don't even know what to say," she murmured. Henry smiled, this time more warmly. "You don't have to say anything. Just take care of your kids. That's enough." For the first time, Clara allowed herself to cry, not from fear or despair, but from relief. The tension that had built up over weeks, months, and even years finally broke. Her children were safe, she was safe, and there was someone who truly cared. That night, as the children slept in warm beds for the first time in what felt like forever, Clara stayed awake for a little while longer. She sat by the fire, staring into the flames, thinking about the strange twist of fate that had brought them here. How had a simple act of kindness from a stranger changed everything? How had someone she didn't know become their protector, their guide, their hope? And deep down, Clara knew one thing for certain. For the first time in a very long time, they had a chance at a fresh start. The morning sunlight slipped gently through the small windows of the ranch house, painting the room in soft golden tones. Clara stirred awake on the couch, wrapped in a warm blanket. For the first time in weeks, she had slept without the tension that always clung to her, that heavy weight pressing on her chest. Emma and Liam were still asleep, curled up together on the rug by the fire. The sight of them so peaceful made her heart swell. After so long of fear and uncertainty, they were finally safe. Henry was already awake, quietly moving around the kitchen. He hummed softly as he prepared breakfast, the smell of frying eggs and fresh bread filling the house. Clara watched him for a moment, realizing how strange it felt to see a stranger acting with such care and normalcy. She had been so used to fending for herself and her children, to living in constant worry, that this calm kindness almost seemed unreal. "Good morning," Henry said gently, turning as he noticed Clara awake. "Did you sleep okay?" Clara nodded, though her voice was quiet. I think so. It's been a long time since I slept like that." Henry smiled. "Good. You need your rest. And so do the kids. They've been through a lot." Clara glanced toward the rug where her children still slept. She felt a deep wave of gratitude rise in her chest, mixed with a lingering unease. Could this really last? Could she finally breathe without fear, even for a moment? Henry set plates of breakfast on the table and gestured for Clara to sit. "Eat," he said simply. "You need your strength." Today is just about taking things slow. No rush, no pressure. She hesitated, but hunger and the aroma of food won. She sat down and began eating, her movements slow, almost cautious. Henry watched quietly, giving her space. She realized that for the first time in a long while, she didn't feel judged. She didn't have to explain herself or apologize for her struggles. She could just be. After breakfast, Henry suggested they take a small tour of the ranch. Clara hesitated at first, unsure if she wanted to see the outside world after everything she had been through. But Liam's eyes lit up with curiosity, and Emma clung to her coat, tugging her gently. The children wanted to explore, and seeing their excitement, Clara finally nodded. They stepped outside together. The morning air was crisp, with the scent of fresh grass and earth. The ranch was quiet, except for the gentle sounds of animals stirring. Chickens clucked near a small coop, and a few cows moved lazily in the distance. A thin layer of dew glistened on the fields, catching the sunlight. Clara's heart lifted. For the first time in a long while, the world outside her struggles felt calm and safe. Henry led them first to the barns. "This is where we keep the animals," he explained, his tone patient. "The kids can help if they want, but only if they feel comfortable. Nothing here is rushed." Liam's eyes widened. Can we feed the chickens?" he asked softly. Henry chuckled.
"Of course. You'll get your turn in a bit."
"But first, just take a look. No pressure." Clara watched as Liam and Emma cautiously approached the chickens. Liam slowly held out his hand, and a curious hen came closer, pecking gently at his palm. Emma squealed with delight, jumping up and down while Clara laughed quietly. feeling a warmth in her chest she hadn't felt in months. The simple joy of seeing her children happy, of hearing their laughter, reminded her that life could be gentle sometimes. Henry stood back, observing them with a calm expression. He had seen many people in need come and go over the years, but there was something different about this family. There was fear, yes, but there was also resilience. And slowly, as they interacted with the animals and explored the ranch, he could see Clara's walls beginning to soften. After a while, they walked toward the main house again. Henry gestured toward a small garden near the porch. "These are vegetables and herbs," he said. "The kids can help water them if they want. It's fun, and it teaches responsibility, too." Liam immediately grabbed a small watering can and began carefully pouring water over the plants, while Emma followed with a tiny pail, trying to mimic her brother's movements. Clara smiled, watching them work together. The sight made her heart feel lighter. It was ordinary, simple, and yet it was exactly what she had been missing, a sense of normalcy. Henry guided them gently, never rushing, never forcing anything. His patience was a balm for Clara's nerves, and slowly she began to feel something she hadn't in a long time: trust. She realized that she could rely on him, that he genuinely wanted to help, not for recognition or reward, but because it was the right thing to do. By midday, the children had explored every corner of the ranch. They ran through the fields, chased after chickens, and even tried feeding a few cows with Henry's guidance. Clara followed at a slower pace, taking it all in. She noticed how carefully Henry moved around the animals, how he spoke gently to them, and how he spoke gently to her and the kids. Every small action reinforced that this was a safe place. When they returned to the house, Henry suggested lunch. Clara hesitated, but eventually helped set the table, feeling useful again. For the first time in weeks, she was not just a mother struggling to survive. She was part of a small, caring community, even if it was just temporarily. During lunch, Henry asked about the children's favorite foods, their hobbies, and their small dreams. Clara answered quietly at first, then slowly found herself opening up. She told Henry about the difficult weeks, about the challenges she had faced alone, and about the moments when she had feared there was no way forward. Henry listened without interrupting, nodding and offering gentle words of encouragement. "You've been carrying a lot on your own," he said finally. "It's okay to let someone else help. That doesn't make you weak. It makes you human." Clara felt tears prick her eyes again, but this time they were not tears of fear. They were tears of relief, of understanding, of hope. She realized that for the first time, she didn't have to be alone in her struggles. There was someone willing to share the burden, someone willing to see her as a person, not just a problem to solve. After lunch, Henry suggested a short rest. "You and the kids can relax for a bit," he said. "I'll finish some chores and we'll come back together later." Clara watched him go, feeling a mixture of gratitude and awe. She had never expected this level of kindness from a stranger. She sat with her children, Emma leaning against her and Liam playing quietly nearby. The house felt warm, the children felt safe, and for the first time Clara allowed herself to breathe deeply without fear. As the afternoon passed, Henry returned and invited the children to help with some small chores around the ranch. They carried water to the animals, gathered eggs from the coop, and helped feed the livestock. Each task was simple, but it gave them a sense of purpose. Clara watched them, realizing how much she had missed these small moments in life, the moments of learning, of laughter, of discovery. Henry also spent time teaching them small lessons about responsibility and care, but he did it gently, with patience and encouragement rather than strict rules or pressure. The children responded eagerly, excited to show him what they could do. Clara felt a sense of pride she hadn't felt in a long time, a sense that, despite everything, her children were capable and resilient. As the sun began to set, casting golden light over the fields, Henry suggested they sit on the porch for a moment. They watched the sky turn shades of pink and orange, the air filled with the sounds of the animals settling in for the night. Clara held Emma on her lap and Liam beside her, feeling a deep sense of peace she hadn't known for months. Henry sat with them, quietly observing. "It's a good feeling, isn't it?" he said softly. "To know you're safe and that someone cares." Clara nodded, her eyes reflecting the sunset. "Yes," she whispered. It's more than I hoped for, more than I thought possible." Henry smiled. "This is just the beginning. We'll take things one day at a time. No rush, no pressure. Just small steps. That's how life gets better. Slowly, steadily, together." For the first time, Clara felt a genuine sense of hope. She realized that she didn't have to face life alone. She had help, guidance, and most importantly, a safe place for her children. She also realized that kindness could come from unexpected places, from people who didn't know her past, but were willing to see her present and future. That night, as the family settled in for their second night at the ranch, Clara tucked her children into their beds with care. They were tired from the day's adventures, their laughter and excitement finally giving way to peaceful sleep. Clara stayed for a moment, watching them, her heart full of gratitude and hope. She knew the journey ahead would not be easy. Challenges would come, and life would test them again. But for the first time in a long time, she believed they could face it, not alone, but together. And that belief, fragile but real, was a gift more powerful than anything she had ever received. Henry checked in one last time before heading to his own small room in the house. "Sleep well," he said quietly. "Tomorrow is another day, and we'll face it together." Clara whispered a soft thank you, feeling a warmth in her heart she couldn't put into words. She finally closed her eyes, feeling that for the first time in months, everything might just be okay. The next morning, the sun rose slowly over the wide fields of the ranch, filling the house with a warm golden light. Clara woke up feeling something she hadn't felt in a long time: peace. The children were already awake, Liam quietly playing with a small wooden toy Henry had given him, and Emma laughing softly as she tried to balance on a low stool near the kitchen table. Clara smiled as she watched them, her heart lifting. For the first time in months, she didn't feel the constant weight of worry pressing on her chest. Henry was already outside, tending to the animals. She could hear the soft sounds of cows lowing and chickens clucking as he moved around the barns. The routine was simple but steady, the kind of rhythm that made life feel manageable. Clara realized she hadn't known what it felt like to wake up without immediate stress, without fear of what the next hour would bring. The ranch, with its quiet order and purpose, gave her a sense of stability she had thought was gone forever. After breakfast, Henry suggested that they all help with some of the morning chores. "It's not work," he said gently. "Just simple things. The kids can help if they want, and you can too. It's good to get your hands busy and your minds calm." Clara hesitated at first, unsure if she was capable. She hadn't done much besides survive for weeks, but seeing her children eager to help, she nodded. "Okay," she said softly. "We'll try." They started with feeding the chickens. Liam carefully held a small scoop of grain while Henry showed him how to pour it into the feeding tray. Emma followed her brother, scattering a little grain herself and giggling as a curious hen pecked near her toes. Clara watched, feeling a joy she had not felt in months. The children were learning, laughing, and moving through the world without fear. It was ordinary, simple, and yet it was a miracle to her. Henry then led them to the vegetable garden. "These need water," he explained. "You can help, but only as much as you want." Clara picked up a small watering can and gently poured water over the rows of leafy plants. The simple action was calming. She noticed how much she had missed this kind of quiet, purposeful work. It reminded her of her own childhood, before life had grown so complicated and hard. The children ran ahead to check on the other plants, laughing as they tried to measure who could water the tallest rows without spilling too much. Clara smiled at their excitement. It was the first time she had truly felt like they were part of something safe and nurturing. The ranch wasn't just a place to hide from danger. It was a place to grow, to rebuild, to start over. After the garden, Henry suggested they gather some eggs from the chicken coop. Liam carried a small basket carefully, placing each egg inside as he collected it, while Emma bounced along beside him, eager to help. Clara followed, feeling her heart lift with each small moment of joy. And she realized how much she had missed these simple, grounding tasks, moments where life felt manageable and meaningful, where laughter was possible and fear could be set aside. By midday, the family returned to the house. The children were excited, talking nonstop about the animals, the plants, and the small adventures they had throughout the morning. Clara helped set the table for lunch, her movements slow but steady. She noticed how calm and orderly Henry was, how he treated every small task with patience and care, and she realized that this quiet, consistent presence was helping her heal without her even noticing. Lunch was simple but satisfying. Fresh bread, eggs, and vegetables from the garden. The children ate quickly, energized by the morning's activity. Clara watched them, feeling a deep sense of pride. They were learning, growing, and thriving even after all the hardships they had endured. Henry joined them at the table, quietly asking questions about the children's favorite foods, the games they liked to play, and small memories from their past. Clara answered carefully, sharing only what she felt comfortable with. She could feel the tension inside her easing, replaced by a sense of connection and trust she hadn't known in months. After lunch, Henry suggested they take a short break. "You and the kids can rest, or read, or just sit," he said. "I'll finish a few chores and then we'll continue together." Clara nodded, grateful for the pause. She carried Emma to the couch and sat with Liam beside her. The children were tired but happy, their faces glowing with the simple satisfaction of a day filled with activity, attention, and care. As they rested, Clara reflected on the past few days. She realized how much her life had changed in a short time. The fear, the desperation, and the uncertainty that had consumed her were slowly being replaced by a sense of hope and stability. The ranch wasn't just a safe place. It was a place where she could begin to heal, where her children could feel normal again, and where she could start imagining a future that didn't feel impossible. Henry returned after a short while, carrying a small basket of supplies. "I thought we could work on a few small projects today," he said. "Nothing big, just little things that make life around here easier." He explained the tasks patiently, showing Clara and the children how to carry out each one. They fixed a small fence, cleaned the animal pens, and organized supplies in the barn. Every task was simple, but it gave them a sense of accomplishment and purpose. Clara noticed how the children's faces lit up when they completed each task, and she felt a deep sense of pride in them and in herself. By late afternoon, they took a break again, sitting on the porch and watching the sun move across the sky. The ranch was quiet except for the soft sounds of animals settling in for the evening. Clara held Emma on her lap and Liam beside her, feeling a deep sense of contentment. She realized that for the first time in months, she could imagine a future where she and her children were safe, happy, and together. Henry spoke softly, as if reading her thoughts. "It's important to have small moments like this," he said. "They remind us that life can be gentle, even after hard times. You've been through so much, but these moments show that healing is possible. Step by step, day by day." Clara nodded, tears filling her eyes, but this time they were tears of gratitude and relief, not fear. I never imagined this could be possible," she said quietly. "I never imagined a place like this, or someone like you helping us." Henry shrugged slightly. "Kindness doesn't need a reason," he said simply. "It just exists. And sometimes it shows up exactly when we need it most." As evening approached, Henry prepared a small dinner while Clara helped the children with their bedtime routines. Emma and Liam were tired but happy, their energy finally giving way to calm. Clara read them a short story before tucking them into their warm beds. She watched them fall asleep, their faces peaceful, and she felt a profound sense of relief. For the first time in months, they were safe, warm, and cared for. After the children were asleep, Clara sat quietly in the living room, thinking about the past few days. She realized that the ranch wasn't just a temporary refuge. It was a place where she could rebuild, where she could find her strength again, and where her children could feel like children again. She thought about the hardships they had endured, the long nights of fear and hunger, and she marveled at how far they had come in just a few days. Henry joined her with a cup of tea, sitting quietly beside her. "You're doing well," he said softly. "The kids are happy, and that's what matters most. You're stronger than you realize." Clara smiled faintly, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. She realized that healing was not about forgetting the past. It was about finding a safe place, having support, and slowly rebuilding trust in herself and in the world. The ranch, Henry's kindness, and the simple routines of life were helping her do just that. That night, as she finally went to bed, Clara felt a sense of hope she hadn't felt in a long time. The road ahead would not be easy. Challenges would come, and there would be moments of doubt. But for the first time in months, she believed that they could face whatever came together. And that belief, fragile but real, was a gift more powerful than anything she had ever received. The ranch had become more than a refuge. It had become a place of healing, a place where trust and kindness could grow, and a place where a mother and her children could begin to reclaim their lives. For Clara, Henry, and the children, this was the start of a new chapter, a chapter filled with hope, safety, and the quiet joy of ordinary days finally returning. The morning sun rose slowly over the ranch once more, golden light spilling across the fields and waking the animals with a gentle warmth. Clara stretched as she got out of bed, feeling a sense of purpose she hadn't felt in months. The weight of worry that had pressed on her for so long had finally eased, replaced by a quiet determination. She glanced at her children, who were already awake and excitedly moving around the small living room. Liam had a wooden toy horse in his hands, and Emma was trying to stack blocks on the floor, her laughter filling the room like music. Clara smiled, feeling a deep sense of pride. For the first time, she could see that her children were happy, not just safe, but truly happy, and that gave her strength. She realized that the ranch had become more than a temporary refuge. It had become a place where her family could begin rebuilding their lives. Henry was already outside, moving with quiet confidence as he tended to the morning chores. Clara had noticed how steady he was, how calm, how patient. That calmness had seeped into her life, helping her see that even after chaos, there could be order. After months of fear and uncertainty, she finally understood the power of routine, patience, and consistent care. Over breakfast, Clara felt more relaxed than she had in years. Henry had prepared eggs and bread from the garden, and the children ate eagerly. Clara joined them, and for the first time the act of eating a simple meal felt peaceful, grounding, and comforting. The fear that had once clouded every bite was gone. After breakfast, Henry suggested that Clara and the children help with a few small tasks around the ranch. Nothing big, he said, smiling. Just little things to get used to the work and the routine. It's good for the kids to feel involved, and it's good for you too. Clara nodded. She wasn't used to doing chores beyond basic survival, but she felt ready.